the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Realtor Growth listeners. Today I have Michael. You know, I've had a lot of athletes, coaches, or ex-athletes for the most part, and coaches. I have someone that helps horse trainers. For sports betting, I guess, a little bit kind of that kind of sector, more of like training the horses and things like that. But I've never had anyone that has kind of helped with betting, I guess, like actual gambling. So that's going to be kind of an intriguing one. And it's most of my betting, if it was legal in California, I'd probably bet more, but most of my betting happens when I go to Vegas. But thank you, Michael, for being here today.
It's not legal to bet in California, huh?
No, it's I think you can bet on the websites, but you can't actually gamble like for betting. But we have Indian reservations where we can gamble. But the interesting thing about that is that for like craps, because craps is my game when I go to Vegas, and they have craps with cards. So before the roll, they flip over the cards, right, to say what number is what. And then you roll the dice. So a 2 could be a 5, a 1 could be a 6, and so on and so forth.
I lived in Vegas, 2 stints in Vegas. And in all the years that I lived there, I never once pulled a slot machine or played a card game or threw dice.
Wow.
All I was sports, whether it's racing or sports. I would walk past the casino floor every day, oblivious to what was going on, except I can smell the smoke when they allowed smoking cigarettes. But I never played a game. Ever.
You kind of reminded me of the Casino? Was it Robert De Niro character, right? It was Robert De Niro.
Right.
Yeah. So how much of that is real? Because it's based off of true events, right? His character?
So, yeah. So, I grew up around these people. Okay, in New York City. And back in the day, so I'm 67 years old.
Okay.
So we go back to the 60s and 70s. And those days, like Vegas was run by the mob. Okay. You had bookmakers. You couldn't place a bet on FanDuel or DraftKings. You went to bookmakers. They'd either be in a store, right? They'd be, at a newsstand, wherever, right? They'd be like the doorman at 300 West End Avenue in New York City. Those people took your bets.
Yeah.
If you didn't pay them, right? If you ran up a big tab, they broke your legs. Or they threatened you, or they went into your house and took your furniture out. But those were the days. Those were good days, because when I lived in Vegas, in my first stint there, when I raised my kids when they were young, this was in the 80s. Okay. It wasn't corporate. It was run by they weren't afraid to take a bet. You can get a comp for a meal. I never paid for anything. I was such a big player that I shared a suite at the Barbary Coast on the Strip, never paid for anything, never paid for a meal, because they respected the gambler and they weren't afraid to take a bet. They comped you. If you played decently, you never had to worry about a hotel room, nothing. Now it's all corporate nonsense. Everything's on a player's card. Everything's points. It's a whole different game. There's no characters. It's just so corporate. It's really disgusting. So when you go back to those movies like Casino, Goodfellas, that really existed.
So I guess let's rewind it. And you talked about a little bit when you were in Vegas the first time raising your kids in the 80s, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and that, I
80s
never tried
and
getting people's age, but what kind of like age ballpark were you at when you were living in Vegas, making a living, I guess sounds like gambling or betting, I guess, sports betting.
well, so I was born in 57. So I went there probably when I was like 30.
Okay.
So, 87. Um, and I raised my kids were young. They were 4, 5, and 9 at the time when we moved there. I built a house in an area called Summerlin, which is, on the outskirts of downtown, down from the strip, probably 20 minutes northwest. And I went to the strip every day, went to the Barbary Coast, shared a room with another friend. We bet horses and sports. And I stayed there until I realized that I couldn't raise my kids there if I wanted to give them a good education.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the school system back then was built on teaching kids were going to be in the casinos as car dealers, were some form of hospitality in the casino business. I didn't want that for my kids. I'm from the Northeast. I went there for a lot of perks because I was such a big player.
Mm-hmm.
So I got, rebates on horse wagers. I never paid for a meal unless I went grocery shopping and brought food. I'd bring food and buy it. But if I took my family out to dinner, I didn't pay. But it came to a point where I had to leave for my family.
So you were making a living on sport betting and horses and like that in your 20s, or how early? I mean, how young were you?
I was in the restaurant business in New York City.
Okay.
My grandfather's restaurant, famous restaurant. And I went to school for psychology and special education because I didn't want to go for business, because what are they going to teach me in school when I'm like running the biggest restaurant in the United States, like one of them, right? And I would meet all these famous people. My grandfather was a producer of Broadway shows, and his theatrical office was in the restaurant. It was called Joe's Pier 52, and it was in downtown. It was on 52nd Street in Manhattan, and it was a prestigious restaurant. I met so many people there, from entertainers to musicians. Muhammad Ali, my grandfather's best friend was Jake LaMotta, Frank Sinatra. I met them all. And when he died, I decided I don't want to go back into the restaurant business. What do I do with my life? I got a degree in psychology and special ed, but I didn't want to do that because I only took those courses because there were 25 women to one man in the class. So I had my pick of the litter of women. That's the only reason I took those classes. And I actually met my wife, and I'm still married 40-something years later in a special ed class. So I didn't want to go into teaching. I didn't want to go into special ed. I didn't want to go back into the restaurant business because I was in the ultimate situation with my grandfather. He died. I didn't want to, the restaurant soon ceased to exist. So I always gambled. I played.
Were you, so, I mean, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, if this restaurant was that successful and when it ceased to exist, you probably made a good amount of money off of that yourself, or?
Well, I wasn't I was just an employee.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So
I had no, my grandfather and I hated each other, but
okay.
He owned it. But the only reason that I worked in the restaurant business is because no one else in the family wanted to do it. And he needed me. I knew what the hell I was doing, but I got nothing from it. I was a straight salaried employee.
So at that time, you're kind of just surviving. You're in your kind of early 20s, something like that, just trying to survive. And because I mean, it seems like you're taking some, I mean, gambles in essence, right? Of like betting your money where you could be saving it or trying to survive or things like that. I mean, where did the confidence, I guess, come from, or where did the willingness to bet to make your living come from?
Well, when as a kid, I was in a really like dysfunctional family. Like, my at 10 years old, I was thrown into a boarding school with my brother. I had a younger brother. And I realized the boarding school, I was 10, and it was with all these rich kids, right? And we weren't rich. I mean, my grandfather was the guy with money, but I didn't grow up with that. I wasn't even part, separate life. Okay. He had the restaurant. He just employed me. So when I was in the boarding school and I realized there were a bunch of rich kids, I decided I can scam them and take their money, because the parents would give them money to buy food, right? And the food was shit in the boarding school. So I would go to the supermarket, buy all the food the kids would like, sell it. My brother was the bag man. This is at 10 years old. I had this whole business. Then I had a baseball card scam where I would cut a baseball card into 4 quarters, 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Put 1 quarter in an envelope and sell it for 25 cents. If you ended up getting the 4 corners of the whole card, you got the bonus prize, which was $5. And so I made enough money scamming these kids through games. I had, card games. So I was gambling and scamming kids at 10 years old in a good way, like just for survival. Look, I was supplying a service. The food stunk. I had all the food that kids wanted. And so I gambled my way when I left, I was kicked out of the boarding school eventually. And so growing up, I was always around gamblers and always around, and it was my way of surviving, having to make money, playing games, doing things like that. I went into the restaurant business because it was a job. It was just a job and free food. I can eat whatever I wanted at the restaurant. When I decided to leave the restaurant, when my grandfather passed away, and I had to decide what to do with my life. So I was just married at the time and just had a child. And I decided that I wanted to get into horse racing. Horse racing was the sport that I gambled on first as a kid. My father would always say, if he took me to the movies as much as he took me to the races, I'd be an actor instead of a handicapper. So I was going to the track at 5 years old and learning horse racing. And that's where I made my money, betting horses too. That was my main sport, not betting sports.
Was your dad a good gambler, or was
Terrible.
Okay.
He was a loser. He was terrible. And I kind of said, I don't want to be like him. How do you win in a game? And I taught myself how to win at horse racing. And I decided after the restaurant business, I was going to put out a tip sheet. I was going to start a business and put out a selection sheet and tell people who to bet on and why. So me and my wife, we had no money. But I saved up enough money to buy like a Gustet and a print machine. And I created a sheet called The Wizard. And The Wizard started in 1984. And it told people, nobody had sheets that at that time that told people reasons why to bet a horse and pick a lot of winners. You had to pick winners. So I would print these sheets at midnight with my wife, get into a car with my neighbor, to drop off the sheets at newsstands near off-track betting parlors in New York City. 6 or 7 of them, these newsstands. And I wasn't selling anything. Like I would go back, I'd give them 10. And the next day I'd go to the same newsstand and I'd get the same 10 back. No one was buying it. So my father felt really bad for me because here I am, college graduate, ran one of the biggest restaurants, and I'm broke. And I'm eating Rice Krispies with a newly married wife and a new child. So eventually I started selling a few, and I realized my father was sending out people to buy my sheet because he felt bad for me. So I ended up like counting coins, right? Counting coins, and like it was ridiculous. This went on for like 6 months, and I was getting embarrassed to tell Noreen, my wife, like, I got $2.60 today. I got $5.30. And I decided no more. I had to leave the business. It was time to go back into the restaurant business. And I said to Noreen, I'm going to find my last chance is to find a horse that I could bet on and make a huge score. And now that huge score had to be something like 30,000 or more. And back then, that's a big score.
Yeah.
So I said to Noreen, give me like 2 weeks. I'm going to find a horse. I kept staying up all night, waiting for that horse to bet on. All of a sudden, a horse comes out of the paper that it's the racing form. And the horse's name is Tough Spot, ironically. And I said, this is the horse. And I had my reasons. He was stiffed like 6 straight times. It was like a larceny move, right? I kind of read between the lines. It was a trainer had only one horse. This was it. And the horse had won 2 years earlier. And I remembered. And that win was off the page. No one could see it. So I only had, it was at Aqueduct on a Saturday. And it was running in the 5th race. And the odds on the horse was 99-1.
Damn.
Yeah. Damn. And the comment was, you've got to be kidding. Like that's the horse I'm risking my whole career on.
Yeah.
Now, back then they had a thing called, they still have it. It's called the pick 6, where you had to have 6 winners in a row. And the pools were huge. So if you didn't hit it like Friday, it wasn't hit. It would carry over to Saturday. The pool was $200,000.
Yeah.
The pick 6.
Yeah.
Now I had to decide, do I bet the horse to win or play him as a single in the pick 6, of which I'd have to win 6 in a row. Now, if I bet, let's say he paid $100 and I bet $100 on him, I'd only make 50 times $5,000.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough. So I had to hit the pick 6, play the pick 6.
Yeah.
So I called my friend Joe DiFilippo and I said, Joe, can you go partners with me, 100 apiece on the pick 6, and I'll map out a ticket. Singling Tough Spot in the 5th race. Now the pick 6 was the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th races. Okay. You had to win 6 in a row. So he said, Wiz, you're on drugs. This horse can't win. Yeah. I said, listen, probably not, but I got to take a shot. It's for my life. This is it. I'm out of the game. He goes, Wiz, for you, let's take a shot, but we're going to go down. I mean, there's no way this horse wins, right? So I go to the track and we map out a ticket for $192. We win the 3rd race. We win the 4th race. The 5th race is Tough Spot. He's 50-1. He's dueling for the lead. It's 2 turns at Aqueduct with a jockey named Antonio Grael. No, I know he's probably a battery horse. Like it's not like a legitimate it's like the horse is, juiced up. Like, I know that. So all of a sudden he's dueling for the lead and he drops back to third. And I turn around, I go, let's get the hell out of here. It's over. Walk and turn around. I start Joe's tugging on my shirt. Whiz! He's coming again. I'm looking at the jockey and he's belting the shit out of this horse, right? He's dueling the length of the stretch with the favorite. All of a sudden at the wire, there's a photo finish. You can't tell who wins the race. It's Tough Spot and the favorite. And there's a photo finish and they're blinking. I just look up to God. I go, please, this is my life. You got to put him up. They put him up. And he won the race. And now there's an inquiry for interference. And his number starts blinking on and off, on and off. I'm saying, you can't, this is like, if they take him down, you took my life down.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the sky. Please don't take him down. They leave him up. He pays $102. But I didn't win anything.
Yeah.
Because I got to win now 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
I win 6. I win 7. Gets to the 8th race. I got 2 horses in a 5-horse field. I got the closer and a front runner. The front runner is dead on the turn. Now all that's left. Now everyone at the racetrack knows the Wizard is alive because I was selling my sheet at the track. No one was buying it, and everybody felt bad for me. So now you hear on the turn the crowd going, Wizard, Wizard, as the horse starts to make a move. At the 8th pole, near the wire, he comes from way out of it. I dropped my binoculars and I said to Joe, we got it. He wins the race and everyone's going, Wizard, Wizard. It's crazy. Now I want to know how much we won. The pool was $200,000.
Yeah.
We get back $100,000 because one guy in Monticello Raceway, another track, had my sheet, ironically, and bet all my top picks and won $100,000. He clipped $100,000 from my bankroll off my sheet, right? So now I pay the tax, and I want the money in cash. So Joe gets half, I get half.
Yeah.
And we go rent a limousine. I got $40,000 in my suit jacket, $20,000 in cash on the left side, 20 on the right side. Take the limousine home. Now my wife knows it's over. Like if I don't win, it's over.
Yeah.
She opens the door. I don't say anything. I'm like, put my head down. I go, Noreen, thank you for supporting me. It's time to go back into the restaurant business. She goes into the living room. My dining room table was where you rest a coffin that I took from a funeral home. I lay the 40,000 in stacks, right? Yeah. I go, Noreen, come into the kitchen. She goes, all the money is there, right? She goes, what the fuck? How the hell did that happen? And I explained to her that I hit Tough Spot 1. So she goes, well, I don't believe you. Like, that's ridiculous. So we turn on the TV. At 6:30, there's a show called Pack at the Track where they recap the day's races on WOR TV. And this guy goes, he recaps everything. And he says, this idiot, they call the Wizard, had the balls to put money, all his money is $192 on a pick 6. And he goes through the whole sequence of races. And the next day I sold out of sheets at the track. It was the start of my profession. I became like the most known handicap. Now, fast forward 40 years later, I'm probably the most known handicapper in the world based on Tough Spot winning that day.
So how long after that moment did you move to Vegas? I'm guessing you moved there because you needed a bigger pool to play in.
I needed what?
A bigger pool to play in, like
no. So I went to Vegas after that.
Yeah.
Like So maybe 4 or 5 years later, because my friend, who was probably the biggest gambler on horses in the world,
Yeah.
moved out there because they gave him a deal and said, Wiz, he loved the wizard sheet.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to help him, right? So I moved my family out there on his, say so.
So did you expand the business did you still give out the sheets where you were living before and then also in Vegas, or?
No. So a company picked right before the internet was the internet.
Yeah.
A company liked my sheet and hired me to send them the sheet. It was different. It was like landline, it was like you did it on I had a friend set up like these dots, and I would type on these dots and send it in. And I said to myself and to my wife, if I am successful with this sheet, and I think this thing they call the internet may be great, then people all over the world could buy my sheet, or at least in the United States, through this thing they calling the internet. So what happened was I was the first game in town to produce a product for sports that when the internet became, when it started, I was like the first game in town. And that's how I built my business, getting my sheet online so that anyone could buy it.
Do you think if you would have lost, that you actually would have given up going down this track of sports betting?
I would have still gambled my whole life. Okay. But I don't think I would have made I think that at the time I wasn't skilled enough, and I didn't have the balls to tell my wife, I'm going to be a professional gambler. I'm going to raise my family on gambling. Like, I didn't have the capital. I didn't have the bankroll. I didn't have the smarts at the time. Horses I did, but I wasn't going to, I'm a new father. I'm not going to, I can't take that risk. I didn't have what it took really to risk. I wanted to have a good life with, I wanted to give to my family what I didn't get. And that meant that gambling would have had to be just a pastime and recreation.
How often? 'Cause I think for a lot of us, we leveraged those wins that we had to help us through struggles that we're going through. How many times, and do you do the same thing with that win that you had through the low moments over the years, or the hiccups you had in your career?
I'm the consummate professional gambler. No one knows when I win or lose. No one knows how much I bet. If you ask my kids, now my kids are 30, 31, and 37.
Yeah.
What kind of father I was, I'd be betting, they'd be crawling on top of me. I was playing between races or games. I'd be on the floor playing with them. I never took my work into even though I worked out of the house, I never let the emotional roller coaster, the ups and downs, have any effect on how I raised my kids.
But what about internally? I mean, internally, because was there ever self-doubt of maybe I need to get out of the business? Or
never self-doubt. I always had confidence, but I think the toughest thing for me was harnessing the discipline, separating the profession from your family life, number one. Number two, understanding what a good bet is and what a stupid bet is. Understanding compulsion. Every gambler has been afflicted by greed at times, chasing, right? Making stupid bets. I'm no different. But over a course of a lifetime, I have really honed my skills and become a very, I would never make it this far doing the things I wanted to accomplish. Foremost, the family. Foremost, I educate, all my kids are educated. Everything I've made, I've built homes. I started a school. I've done so many things. I've given back as much as I can. I could never do it without being a professional, and so, and I went back to Vegas recently and lived there 5 years to understand the inner workings of gambling, from how things work internally, corporately, and also playing. So I just moved back a couple of years ago. I went for a second stint for 5 years.
You said that knowing the difference between good bets and bad bets. Is there a simple answer to define those, or is it more like in depth?
Well, you have to rely on your instincts and feel, and block out external noise. I don't listen to anybody. I don't turn on all these so-called talking heads on ESPN or whatever. Like, I try to block that out. I try to do my own research. I watch with my own eyes. It's hard work. Okay. I work at least 50 hours a week, 40 to 50 hours a week. There's no shortcuts, but basically, and I know there are some knowledgeable people out there that you can gain some insights. I have friends that are knowledgeable, will feed ideas off each other. There's columnists, reporters that I respect. But I take bits and pieces, and then in the end, I look at the odds of, whether it's horses or sports, and decide, is it worth that investment at this price? Because it's basically, understanding what's a good bet and what's not a good bet. Then you figure out, okay, I like this game. Now, what's the price? What are the odds that are being posted for that game? Are you getting value? Are you getting the fair price, or is the market overpriced? Like when UConn won the NCAA tournament, I rode an amazing streak, and it's all documented on my website at Wizard Racing Sports, and through the tickets that I post, the betting tickets.
Yeah.
They did something miraculous. In 2 seasons in the NCAA tournament, they covered the spread by easily in every tournament game.
Wow.
And I rode the streak. Even to the end when they beat Purdue this season. That was one of my biggest plays. So the odds makers couldn't price in the right price. They kept upping it, but so I had an angle. So that was an angle from watching, from a feel, research, then having the guts to bet the kind of money. The other thing is not over betting. Like, I don't bet more than, I bet within my comfort level, and I don't chase.
Do you disclose on your sheets of how much you bet personally, or is that kind of totally separate?
Every game I give out, like tonight, I have a hockey game. The Las Vegas Knights against the Dallas Stars, okay? It's game 1. I have a bet for that game. I have a suggested wager. Every game I give out, I bet just for the site, to win $500. So depending on what side I gave out tonight, right, I bet, and that ticket is posted on the site after the game, win or lose. All my results, plus you can read what I wrote about the game, are all on my site. So it's transparency, honesty, integrity. And that's what, and I teach people. That's all my selections come with my analysis. So I'm educating you why I'm making that play.
Thank you, Michael, so much for being on the platform. If people are listening and they're looking to find your sheets, I guess, get to your website or just follow your journey, what's the best way of them getting more information?
Well, my website is wizardracingsports.com, one word, Wizard Racing Sports. And there I offer the horse racing and sports selections. I don't give out a game every day. Like, I pick my spots. I'm very selective. I just don't put anything up there to make money. I don't do it for the money. I do it to help people win. And so that's where my work is posted.
Again, thank you, Michael, for being here. Before we get to one last question that I have for you, Michael, I just wanted to tell listeners we do have a sponsor, Melody Cloud. So go in the show notes. You can go find Melody Cloud there. Also find Michael's Wizard Racing and Sports Betting. That's in the show notes too for his website. Also, if you have any real estate questions, please go in the show notes too. The Enriquez Group, we would love to help you out. And then thank you guys, please, for listening to this platform. And please subscribe and please follow Michael. Before the last question I have for you, Michael, where do you think the future of sports betting is going, especially now with, I guess, artificial intelligence, all the other kind of competitors, I guess, to you? Where do you see that going and how do you adapt to it, I guess?
Well, I'm glad that's like the most important question you've asked. Because now with legalized sports gambling available almost anywhere, and it's going to become available everywhere. And mark my words from a guy that's been doing it 60 plus years and 40 years professionally, it's going to be one of the main reasons for the degradation of our society. And I say this because when I went to Vegas and I lived there recently, what do you think the percentage is? Take a guess of winners to losers. What's the percentage of losing gamblers?
I would probably say about 25% actually are winners.
98% are losers.
Wow.
2% are winners. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And those 2%, most of them are real professionals. Okay. Pretty much that 2%.
Yeah.
These places, it's too readily available. People think that these places, and I don't want to mention names. We know who these names are.
Yeah.
They're playing into the psyche of gamblers.
Yeah.
And I mean gamblers, creating a culture of compulsive gamblers, because people don't really realize how hard it is to win. And they don't understand it's going to develop compulsion like any disease. And I know so many people, or have heard of so many people, that have become closet gamblers. Like in the middle of the night, they'll be playing something from, overseas, that sport they don't even know, just for action. They'll be playing online poker, online casino. And you have people, people don't have money to gamble. They don't have that excess money to start throwing away on gambling on something they don't really know. Yeah. And so my job is, I don't guarantee, I don't win every day. A good year is 60% winners. That means 6 out of 10, you're going to win. 4 out of 10, you're going to lose. But I still show a profit. It's not easy money. It's grinding. Okay.
Yep.
But it's also entertainment, and you're not going to get hurt. Yep. That's where my level is. No one hits 65, 70% every year. It's impossible. But most of these people that are gambling are losing hard-earned money, which are affecting their families.
Yeah.
And these big companies are doing a great job manipulating you through bonuses, through different things. If you're a winner on these sites, they kick you out. So you have to be very careful how much you win. They don't want winners. They want a culture of losers, and that's what they're creating. So it's very, very dangerous, and it's going to get worse. Believe me, if you had me back on 5 years from now, mark my words, you're going to see, they legalized marijuana. That's not going to kill society. Okay. Yeah. It's, there's a lot of pluses to it. It's, there's gambling. There's not, it's legal. It's like legalizing alcohol to alcoholics or beginning alcoholics, but gambling is a whole another thing. And it's terrible. What I see.
Yeah. I mean, that brings the last one for everyone out there. I mean, gamble what you can afford. I mean, I've had buddies that have definitely gambled more than they can afford. I mean, with the hope and the prayer and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, please gamble what you can actually afford.
When you drink and gamble, that's double dose of horror. Okay.
Oh,
then it's totally, forget the drinking. Gambling is all out of emotion.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you start losing and you double up and triple up and you start chasing. Yeah. Right. That's what these sports services, these betting services want you to do. And then they'll give you $100 bonus, $50 bonus to suck you back in. It's all manipulation. I mean, what I'm saying is very important is that, and I'm not saying go to my site and buy my stuff. That has nothing to do. I'm not selling anything to anybody. I produce a service, but I'm telling the general public here, really be careful about, and don't listen. I put up my results and my tickets but don't follow charlatans. The industry is built, selection industry is built on charlatans and lies. Do your own work.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I think in most industries now, I mean, not just gambling, right? Of like charlatans, people selling you a dream.
In real estate, it.
Exactly.
Okay, exactly. Your business. But in gambling, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Yeah. And I would say if you're going to gamble, do the work yourself. Enjoy, do a little research, bet what you can afford, and that's it. Because once you go down that hole, you're dead, and it's going to affect your life and your family. Therapists are going to get rich. Divorces you're going to see the divorce rate go up. Mark my words, it's going to happen.
Well, thank you again, Michael, for being here. Hopefully everyone got some great nuggets right there. I mean, listen to the whole podcast, but you have to listen to the very end of it, what Michael talked about. I mean, you can see the passion of, trying to protect you. It sounds like he's trying to protect you like one of his own children right there, or even a close friend that he's dealt with, right?
I care about the industry and I care about people. I worked so hard in my life to preserve my family, to separate the gambling as a profession from raising 3 wonderful kids, right? That's if I look back on my life, it's not my success in my profession that I'm proud of. It's my success as a father and a husband that I'm really proud of with the profession that I've chosen. And I don't want to see people ruin their lives based on gambling. And it's happening with a lot. I'm hearing it left and right.
Well, again, thank you, Michael, for being here. Hopefully everyone got some great information. Please subscribe, please share, go in the show notes, and go find Michael. Bye, everyone.
Hey,